Welcome to tonight's journey, a gentle voyage through time to a place where the world's greatest minds once gathered and where the light of knowledge burned brighter than anywhere else on earth. Close your eyes, settle in, and let your imagination drift to the ancient shores of Egypt, to the legendary city of Alexandria, and to the most famous library the world has ever known. This is the story of the Library of Alexandria, a beacon of wisdom, a sanctuary for scholars, and a symbol of all that humanity can achieve and all that it can lose. Imagine the city of Alexandria in its prime. The year is perhaps 250 BCE. The sun rises over the Mediterranean, casting golden light on marble columns and bustling harbors. Ships from every corner of the known world arrive, their sails billowing, their holds filled with goods, scrolls, and stories. Merchants, philosophers, poets, and scientists walk the wide avenues, speaking in many tongues, sharing ideas and dreams. At the heart of this city stands the great library, and unlike any other, its walls are tall and gleaming, its gardens lush and fragrant. Inside, the air is cool and still, heavy with the scent of papyrus and ink. Shelves stretch as far as the eye can see, filled with thousands upon thousands of scrolls, each one a treasure, a fragment of the world's knowledge. But how did this wonder come to be? Who built it, and why? And what secrets did it hold?
Tonight, let us begin our journey not with a single event, but with a dream that would change the course of human history. Close your eyes and imagine the world more than 2,000 years ago, when the Mediterranean was the heart of civilization, and the thirst for knowledge was as powerful as the desire for conquest. Our story begins with a man whose name still echoes through the ages, Alexander the Great. Born in Macedonia, tutored by Aristotle, Alexander was a visionary and a conqueror. By the time he was 30, he had created one of the largest empires the world had ever seen, stretching from Greece to Egypt, from Persia to the edges of India. But Alexander's ambitions were not only for land and glory. He dreamed of a world united by culture, language, and learning. Wherever he went, he founded cities, each one a beacon of Greek civilization, each one a promise of a new era. Among all these cities, one would become the greatest, Alexandria. In 331 BCE, Alexander arrived on the northern coast of Egypt. He stood on a narrow strip of land between the Mediterranean Sea and Lake Mareotis, and there he saw the perfect place for his vision. He ordered the construction of a new city, one that would bear his name and serve as a bridge between East and West. Alexandria was designed by the Greek architect Dinocrates, who laid out the city in a grid pattern, with wide avenues, grand squares, and harbors open to the world. From the very beginning, Alexandria was meant to be more than just a city. It was to be a symbol of unity, a crossroads of cultures, and a center of learning. After Alexander's untimely death in 323 BCE, his empire was divided among his generals. Egypt fell to Ptolemy, one of Alexander's most trusted companions. Ptolemy I Soter became the first ruler of a new dynasty, the Ptolemies, who would govern Egypt for nearly 3 centuries. Ptolemy understood the power of knowledge. He wanted Alexandria to be the intellectual capital of the world, a place where the wisdom of Greece, Egypt, Persia, and beyond could be gathered, preserved, and expanded. To achieve this dream, the Ptolemies and their successors conceived of a library unlike any the world had ever seen. It would not be a simple collection of scrolls, but a living institution, a place where scholars could study, debate, and create new ideas, a place where the past would be preserved for the future, and where the boundaries of knowledge would be pushed ever outward. The Library of Alexandria was to be the heart of this vision. It would stand at the center of the city, close to the royal palace and the great harbor. Its walls would shelter not only books, but also the greatest minds of the age. The Ptolemies spared no expense in building their dream. They sent agents across the Mediterranean and beyond, searching for books and scrolls in every language. Ships arriving in Alexandria were required to surrender any written works they carried. These were copied, and the originals were often kept for the library's collection. The ambition was staggering, to gather all the knowledge of the world in one place. But the library was only part of a larger institution, the Museon, or Temple of the Muses. The Muses in Greek mythology were the goddesses of inspiration in the arts and sciences. The Museon was a place of worship, but also a research center, a university, and a home for poets, scientists, and philosophers. Within its walls, scholars lived, worked, and dined together. They were supported by the Ptolemaic kings, who provided them with food, lodging, and a stipend. The Museon was a community of learning, where ideas could be shared and challenged, and where the pursuit of knowledge was a way of life. The library and the Museon together became the intellectual heart of Alexandria, a city that would soon rival Athens as the center of the ancient world.
As Alexandria grew, so did its reputation. Merchants, travelers, and scholars from every corner of the known world came to its harbors. They brought with them not only goods, but also stories, ideas, and dreams. The city became a melting pot of cultures: Greek, Egyptian, Persian, Jewish, and many others. Temples and synagogues stood side by side with Greek theaters and Egyptian obelisks. The streets echoed with a dozen languages, and the air was thick with the scent of spices, ink, and papyrus. At night, the city glowed with the light of oil lamps and torches. From the harbor, sailors could see the great lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, guiding them safely to shore. But for many, the true wonder of Alexandria was not its lighthouse, its palaces, or its bustling markets. It was the library, a place where the light of knowledge burned brighter than anywhere else on earth. The Ptolemies' agents scoured the world for books. They visited Athens, Rhodes, Antioch, Babylon, and even far-off India. They sought out poets, philosophers, scientists, and historians, inviting them to Alexandria and offering them a place among the city's scholars. The library's collection grew rapidly. Some ancient sources claimed it eventually held as many as 700,000 scrolls, though the true number is lost to history. What is certain is that the library became the greatest repository of knowledge the world had ever seen. But the library was not just a storehouse. It was a living, breathing institution where new works were written, old ones were copied and preserved, and ideas were debated and refined. Here the wisdom of the past met the curiosity of the present, and together they shaped the future. For the people of Alexandria, the library was a source of pride and wonder. It was a place where anyone, regardless of their background, could come to learn, to question, and to dream. For the scholars who lived and worked there, it was a sanctuary, a place where the pursuit of knowledge was valued above all else. And for the world, the Library of Alexandria became a symbol of what humanity could achieve when it dared to dream. But as we will see, even the greatest dreams are fragile. The story of the library is not only one of hope and ambition, but also of loss and longing, a reminder that the light of knowledge must always be protected. In the next chapter, we will step inside the walls of the library itself and discover the marvels that awaited those who entered its halls.
Step with me now through the bustling streets of ancient Alexandria. The city is alive with the sounds of merchants calling out their wares, the laughter of children, and the distant crash of waves against the harbor walls. But as you move closer to the royal quarter, the noise fades, replaced by a hush of reverence. Here stands the Library of Alexandria, a marvel that would become the envy of the world. No one alive today has seen the library with their own eyes. Its walls have long since crumbled, its scrolls turned to dust. Yet, through the words of ancient writers and the echoes of legend, we can imagine what it must have been like to enter this sanctuary of knowledge. The library was not a single building, but a sprawling complex, possibly attached to the royal palace itself. Some say it was surrounded by lush gardens, shaded by palm trees and fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers. Marble columns lined the walkways, and statues of the muses, the goddesses of inspiration, stood watch over all who entered. Inside, the air was cool and still, a welcome relief from the Egyptian sun. The floors were made of polished stone, and the walls were lined with shelves upon shelves of papyrus scrolls. Some rooms were vast, with high ceilings and tall windows that let in shafts of golden light. Others were small and intimate, perfect for quiet study or whispered conversation. There were reading rooms, lecture halls, and even dining areas where scholars could share meals and ideas. The Museum, the larger institution of which the library was a part, was more than just a place for books. It was a community, a university, and a temple to the pursuit of knowledge. The heart of the library was its collection. The Ptolemies, eager to make Alexandria the intellectual capital of the world, sent agents far and wide to gather books and scrolls. Ships arriving in the harbor were searched for any written works, which were then copied. Sometimes the originals were kept, and the copies returned to their owners. The library's ambition was nothing less than to collect all the knowledge of the world. Its shelves held works in Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, Persian, and many other languages. There were epic poems and plays, histories and geographies, treatises on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and engineering,
There were sacred texts, philosophical dialogues, and even cookbooks and manuals on farming. Some sources claim the library eventually held hundreds of thousands of scrolls, perhaps as many as 700,000. While the true number is lost to history, what matters is the spirit of the place, a belief that knowledge, in all its forms, was worth preserving. So with so many scrolls, the library needed a way to keep track of its treasures. Enter Callimachus, one of the greatest poets and scholars of his age. As chief librarian, he created the Penakes, the first known library catalog in history. The Penakes was a massive, multi-volume index that listed authors, titles, and subjects. It was organized by genre: poetry, drama, history, philosophy, science, and within each genre by author. For each work, Callimachus included a brief summary and notes about the author's life. This system allowed scholars to find what they needed quickly and efficiently. It also set a standard for libraries that would be followed for centuries to come. Imagine yourself as a scholar in Alexandria. You rise with the sun, the city already humming with activity. After a simple breakfast, you make your way to the library, passing through the grand entrance and into the cool, quiet halls. You might spend the morning reading a newly arrived scroll from Athens, or copying a rare treatise on astronomy. Perhaps you attend a lecture in one of the museum's halls, where a visiting philosopher debates the nature of the cosmos. At midday, you join your fellow scholars for a meal, simple bread, olives, and wine, discussing the latest discoveries and theories. In the afternoon, you return to your studies, perhaps working on your own treatise or collaborating with others on a new experiment. The library is a place of freedom and curiosity. Here, you are encouraged to ask questions, to challenge old ideas, and to seek new answers. The pursuit of knowledge is not just a duty, it is a joy. The Museon was home to dozens, perhaps hundreds of scholars at any given time. They came from all over the Mediterranean, Greece, Egypt, Asia Minor, even as far as India. Some were mathematicians, others poets, doctors, astronomers, or philosophers. The Ptolemaic kings supported these scholars generously. They were given free lodging, food, and a stipend so they could devote themselves entirely to study. The Museon even had its own dining hall where scholars could eat together and share ideas. This community fostered a spirit of collaboration and debate. Arguments were common, but so was mutual respect. The goal was not to win, but to learn. The library was not just a place to read old books. It was a place to create new knowledge. Scholars here made groundbreaking discoveries in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and more. They measured the circumference of the Earth, mapped the stars, and developed new surgical techniques. They wrote commentaries on Homer, translated sacred texts, and invented new forms of poetry. The spirit of innovation was everywhere. If you had an idea, you could test it, debate it, and refine it with the help of your peers. The library was a laboratory of the mind. News of the library's wonders spread far and wide. Travelers and dignitaries came from distant lands to see its treasures and meet its scholars. Some stayed for months or even years, drawn by the promise of learning. The library became a symbol of Alexandria's greatness, a beacon of light in a world often shrouded in darkness. For centuries, it stood as a testament to what humanity could achieve when it valued knowledge above all else. But even as the library flourished, there were signs of danger. Alexandria was a city of wealth and power, and such cities often attract envy and conflict. The library's treasures made it a target, and its fate would be shaped by the storms of history. For now, though, let us linger in its halls a little longer, savoring the peace and promise of a world devoted to learning. In the next chapter, we will meet the great minds who called the library home and discover the ideas that changed the world. Within the marble halls and shaded gardens of the Library of Alexandria, some of the greatest minds in human history walked, worked, and dreamed. This was not just a place for books, but a living community, a gathering of thinkers, inventors, poets, and scientists, each leaving a mark on the world that would echo for centuries. Let us step into their world and meet the remarkable individuals whose ideas shaped the course of civilization. Among the earliest and most influential scholars of Alexandria was Euclid. Little is known about his personal life, but his work has survived the ages. In the library, Euclid wrote his masterpiece, Elements, a collection of 13 books that organized and explained the principles of geometry. Elements was more than just a textbook. It was a revolution in logical thinking. Euclid's method, starting from simple definitions and building up to complex theorems, became the foundation of mathematics for over 2,000 years. His influence reached far beyond Alexandria, shaping the minds of scientists, architects, and philosophers from ancient Rome to the Renaissance and beyond. A famous story tells of a king who asked Euclid if there was a shortcut to learning geometry. Euclid replied, "There is no royal road to geometry." In Alexandria, the pursuit of knowledge was open to all, but it required patience, discipline, and curiosity. Another giant of the library was Eratosthenes, a man of many talents, mathematician, geographer, astronomer, and poet. He served as chief librarian for decades, and his achievements were legendary. Eratosthenes is best remembered for measuring the circumference of the Earth with astonishing accuracy. He noticed that at noon on the summer solstice, the sun shone directly into a well in the city of Syene, now Aswan, but cast a shadow in Alexandria. By measuring the angle of the shadow and knowing the distance between the two cities, he calculated the Earth's circumference to within a few percent of the modern value. This feat, accomplished with nothing more than a stick, a well, and a brilliant mind, stands as one of the great triumphs of ancient science. Eratosthenes also created one of the first maps of the known world, introduced the concept of latitude and longitude, and developed a calendar that included leap years. Though not a permanent resident, Archimedes spent time in Alexandria and was deeply influenced by its scholars. Born in Syracuse, he traveled to Egypt to study mathematics and engineering. Archimedes' discoveries changed the world. He formulated the principles of buoyancy, known as Archimedes' principle, while taking a bath, leading to his famous exclamation, "Eureka!" He invented the Archimedean screw, a device for raising water that is still used today. His work in geometry, calculus, and physics laid the groundwork for modern science. Archimedes' letters to the scholars of Alexandria reveal a lively exchange of ideas, debates, and challenges, a testament to the spirit of collaboration that defined the library. The library was also a center for medical research. Herophilus and Erasistratus were among the first physicians to perform systematic dissections of the human body, advancing the understanding of anatomy and physiology. Herophilus studied the brain, nerves, and blood vessels, and is sometimes called the father of anatomy. Erasistratus focused on the heart and circulatory system, making discoveries that would not be matched for centuries. Their work was controversial. Dissection was rare and often forbidden in the ancient world. But in Alexandria, the pursuit of knowledge was given priority over tradition. Centuries after the library's founding, a remarkable woman named Hypatia became one of its most famous scholars. Born around 360 CE, Hypatia was a mathematician, philosopher, and teacher. She led the Neoplatonic school of philosophy in Alexandria and was renowned for her wisdom, eloquence, and courage. Hypatia's lectures attracted students from across the Mediterranean. She wrote commentaries on mathematics and astronomy, improved scientific instruments, and became a symbol of learning and tolerance. Tragically, Hypatia's life ended in violence. In 415 CE, during a period of political and religious turmoil, she was murdered by a mob. Her death marked an end of an era, the last light of Alexandria's golden age.
Among the many poets and writers of the library, Callimachus stands out. He was not only a master of verse, but also the chief librarian, responsible for organizing the vast collection of scrolls. Callimachus created the Pinakes, the first great library catalog, which listed authors, titles, and subjects. His work made it possible for scholars to find and use the library's resources efficiently. He also wrote hymns, epigrams, and the famous poem Aetia, which explored the origins of myths and customs. The library attracted a dazzling array of talent. Apollonius of Rhodes, author of the epic Argonautica, which tells the story of Jason and the Golden Fleece. Strabo, the geographer, whose descriptions of the world influenced explorers for centuries. Claudius Ptolemy, the astronomer and mathematician, whose Almagest became the standard reference for centuries. Theon of Alexandria, a mathematician and commentator, and his daughter Hypatia, who edited and preserved many ancient texts. The list goes on. Historians, philosophers, translators, and inventors, each contributing to the library's legacy. What made the library truly special was not just the brilliance of its scholars, but the spirit of community and collaboration. Ideas were shared, debated, and refined. Disagreements were common, but so was respect for different viewpoints. The library was a place where curiosity was celebrated, where questions were encouraged, and where the pursuit of truth was a shared mission. The achievements of the library's scholars shaped the world in ways that are still felt today. Their works were copied, translated, and preserved in other lands: Byzantium, the Islamic world, and later, Renaissance Europe. The methods of logic, observation, and experimentation developed in Alexandria became the foundation of modern science and philosophy. Even as the library itself faded into legend, the ideas born within its walls continued to illuminate the path of human progress. In the next chapter, we will explore the myths, legends, and mysteries that surround the Library of Alexandria, a place where fact and fiction blend, and where the longing for lost wisdom endures.
The Library of Alexandria was not only a marvel of stone and scrolls, but a place where reality and legend intertwined. As centuries passed, the stories told about the library grew ever more wondrous, and its reputation became shrouded in myth. Tonight, let us wander through the shadows of history and imagination, exploring the mysteries and legends that have clung to the library like morning mist on the Nile. To the ancient world, the library was more than a building. It was a symbol of the impossible dream, to gather all the world's knowledge in one place. Some said that within its walls, Every book ever written could be found, from the wisdom of the Egyptians and Babylonians to the poetry of the Greeks, the science of the Persians, and the sacred texts of distant lands. Travelers and scholars who visited Alexandria often returned home with tales of the library's endless shelves and secret chambers. They spoke of rooms filled with scrolls so rare and precious that only the chief librarian could touch them. Some whispered of forbidden books, works of magic, alchemy, or prophecy, hidden away from prying eyes. One of the most enduring legends is that of the Book of Thoth. According to Egyptian myth, Thoth was the god of wisdom, writing, and magic. He was said to have written a book containing the secrets of the universe, knowledge so powerful that it could grant the reader mastery over the earth, the sea, and the stars. Some believed that this book, or at least a copy of it, was hidden deep within the Library of Alexandria, protected by spells and curses. It was said that only the most worthy could find it, and that those who tried and failed would be driven mad or destroyed. The story of the Book of Thoth is almost certainly a legend, but it reflects the awe and reverence with which the library was regarded. To many, it was a place where the boundary between the human and the divine grew thin. The library's reputation for holding every book ever written has inspired centuries of longing and regret. Historians and poets have mourned the loss of works that might have changed the world. What was lost? Some say the original plays of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, works that survive only in fragments today. Others believe the library held the complete histories of Berosus, the Babylonian priest, and Manetho, the Egyptian historian. There were said to be treatises on mathematics, astronomy, and medicine from India, Persia, and beyond. Perhaps the greatest loss was the work of the philosopher Democritus, who wrote extensively on atoms and the nature of the universe, ideas that would not be rediscovered for nearly 2,000 years. The library was also said to have housed the lost books of Aristotle, the writings of the legendary engineer Daedalus, and even the secrets of the pyramids. Some legends speak of hidden chambers beneath the library, where the most precious and dangerous scrolls were kept. These rooms, it was said, were accessible only to the chief librarian and the king. Inside, ancient maps, magical texts, and forbidden knowledge were guarded by traps and spells. There are stories of tunnels connecting the library to the royal palace, the harbor, and even the great lighthouse of Alexandria. In times of danger, the most valuable scrolls could be whisked away to safety, or so the stories claim. No archaeological evidence has ever confirmed the existence of these secret rooms or tunnels, but the legends persist, fueling the imaginations of writers and explorers. The library was not the only marvel of Alexandria. Nearby stood the great lighthouse, Pharos, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Some stories suggest that the two were connected, not just by tunnels, but by purpose. The lighthouse guided sailors safely to Alexandria's harbor, a beacon of hope in the darkness. The library, in turn, was a beacon of knowledge, guiding seekers of wisdom from every land. Together, they made Alexandria a city of light, both literal and metaphorical. The fame of the library spread far and wide, inspiring poets, philosophers, and historians. The Greek geographer Strabo wrote of the Museion and its scholars, describing it as a place where men of letters lived together, supported by the state, with a common dining hall and a great collection of books. The Roman writer Aulus Gellius marveled at the library's vast collection, and the Jewish philosopher Philo described it as a place where the whole world's learning was gathered. Even in its own time, the library was a legend.
As centuries passed and the library faded into ruin, its legend only grew. Medieval Arab writers told stories of the library's destruction, blaming conquerors, fanatics, or even jealous rivals. Some claimed that the library's books were burned to heat the city's baths for 6 months. Others said they were thrown into the sea. In the Renaissance, scholars dreamed of finding lost scrolls hidden in the sands of Egypt. Writers and artists imagined the library as a place of wonder and mystery, filled with secrets waiting to be discovered. In modern times, the library has become a symbol of lost wisdom, a reminder of how much can vanish in the fires of war and the tides of time. Why do these legends endure? Perhaps it is because the story of the library speaks to a deep human longing, the desire to know, to remember, to preserve. We imagine what might have been. What if the library had survived? What if the wisdom of the ancients had not been lost? What secrets might we have uncovered? What wonders might we have achieved? The Library of Alexandria is more than a place. It is a dream, a hope, and a warning. Even today, archaeologists and historians search for traces of the library. Some believe that parts of it may still lie buried beneath the streets of modern Alexandria, waiting to be found. In 2002, the Biblioteca Alexandrina was opened, a modern library built near the site of the ancient one. It stands as a tribute to the dream of universal knowledge and as a reminder of what was lost. But the true Library of Alexandria, with its endless shelves and secret rooms, lives on in our imagination. As you drift deeper into the story, remember that the line between history and legend is often thin. The Library of Alexandria was real, a place of learning, discovery, and wonder. But it was also a place of dreams, a canvas for the hopes and fears of generations. In the next chapter, we will turn from legend to history and explore the trials and tragedies that befell the library, a story of fire, war, and the fragility of greatness.
For centuries, the Library of Alexandria stood as a beacon of hope and knowledge, a sanctuary for scholars, a treasure house of wisdom, and a symbol of what humanity could achieve. But even the greatest wonders are not immune to the storms of history. The story of the library's fall is a tale of war, fire, neglect, and the relentless passage of time, a tragedy that has haunted the imagination of generations. Let us walk together through the shadows of the past and witness the trials and tragedies that led to the loss of the world's greatest library. The first great blow to the library came in 48 BCE during the Roman Civil War. Julius Caesar, one of history's most famous generals, found himself besieged in Alexandria by the forces of Ptolemy XIII. As the fighting raged, Caesar ordered his men to set fire to the Egyptian fleet in the harbor, hoping to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. The flames quickly spread, leaping from ship to dock, from dock to warehouse, and, according to some ancient sources, reaching the buildings near the harbor, including the library's storage facilities. The Greek historian Plutarch wrote that a great part of the library was burned. Other writers, like Strabo and Dio Cassius, mention the destruction of books and scrolls, though the details are unclear. Was the main library itself destroyed in this fire, or only its warehouses and annexes? Historians still debate the answer. What is certain is that thousands of precious scrolls were lost, an irreplaceable blow to the world's knowledge. Despite this disaster, the library did not vanish overnight. There is evidence that it survived, at least in part, for several more centuries. The Museum continued to function, and scholars still gathered in Alexandria to study and debate. Some believe that the library's collection was rebuilt, drawing on copies stored in other parts of the city, such as the Serapeum, a grand temple dedicated to the god Serapis, which housed a branch of the library. But the wounds of war had left their mark. The city itself was changing as Roman rule replaced the old Ptolemaic dynasty. The new rulers were less interested in supporting the library, and the flow of new books and scholars began to slow. In the centuries that followed, Alexandria became a center of early Christianity. The city was a place of passionate debate, sometimes peaceful, sometimes violent, between pagans, Jews, and Christians. In 391 CE, the Roman Emperor Theodosius I issued a decree banning pagan practices and ordering the destruction of temples. The Serapeum, which had become a symbol of the old religions and a repository for many of the library's scrolls, was attacked by a Christian mob. The historian Socrates Scholasticus wrote that the Serapeum was razed to the ground and that its treasures were destroyed or scattered. Some sources claim that the last remnants of the library's collection perished in this attack. The fall of the Serapeum marked the end of an era. The old world of Alexandria, the world of philosophers, poets, and scientists, was giving way to a new order. Even after these disasters, the idea of the library lingered. Some scholars continued to work in Alexandria, and small collections of books survived in private hands or in other institutions. But the golden age was over. Without royal patronage, the library could not maintain its vast collection or attract the world's greatest minds. Scrolls decayed, were lost, or simply forgotten. The city itself suffered from earthquakes, riots, and invasions. The great lighthouse of Alexandria, once a symbol of hope, was toppled by tremors and storms. By the time the Arab armies arrived in the 7th century, the library was a memory, a legend whispered among the ruins. In 642 CE, Alexandria fell to the armies of the Rashidun Caliphate, led by Amr ibn al-As. Centuries later, Arab historians told a story. When asked what to do with the books of the library, the Caliph Umar reportedly replied, "If they agree with the Quran, they are unnecessary. If they disagree, they are heretical. Destroy them." According to these accounts, the books were used to fuel the city's bathhouses for 6 months. But most modern historians doubt the truth of this story. There is little contemporary evidence for such an event, and it may be a legend created long after the fact. What is clear is that by the time of the Arab conquest, the library as it had once existed was already gone, destroyed not by a single act, but by centuries of neglect, violence, and change. The loss of the Library of Alexandria is one of the great tragedies of history. We can only guess at what was lost, the complete works of ancient playwrights and poets, scientific treatises from Greece, Egypt, Persia, and India, histories, philosophies, and discoveries that might have changed the world. The destruction of the library was not just the loss of books, but the loss of dreams, ideas, and possibilities. It is a reminder of how fragile knowledge can be, and how easily the light of learning can be extinguished. The long of the library haunted the imagination of later generations. Writers, artists, and philosophers mourned what was lost and dreamed of what might have been. The Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the modern age all looked back to Alexandria as a symbol of human potential and of the dangers of ignorance, intolerance, and war. The story of the fall of the library is a warning, but also a call to action, to cherish knowledge, to protect it, and to pass it on to those who come after us. Though the library is gone, its spirit endures. The dream of gathering all the world's knowledge in one place lives on in every library, every university, and every curious mind. In 2002, the modern Biblioteca Alexandrina was opened near the site of the ancient library, a tribute to the past and a promise for the future. As you reflect on the trials and tragedies of the library, remember that even in loss, there is hope. The light of knowledge can be rekindled, and the dream of Alexandria can live again. In our final chapter, we will explore the legacy of the Library of Alexandria, the lessons it offers, the inspiration it provides, and the enduring power of the human quest for knowledge.
Before we begin tonight's final chapter, I invite you, if you find comfort in these gentle journeys through history, to let us know with a like, or share your thoughts and favorite moments in the comments below. Your support and stories help keep the spirit of discovery alive and guide us toward new adventures together. Now, let us return to Alexandria and reflect on the legacy of a dream that still glows, even after the last scroll has turned to dust. The Library of Alexandria may have vanished from the earth, but its influence has never truly faded. For centuries, it has stood as a symbol of human curiosity, ambition, and the endless quest for understanding. The scholars who walked its halls, Euclid, Eratosthenes, Hypatia, and so many others, left behind more than books and theories. They left a way of thinking, a belief in reason, dialogue, and the power of questions. Their methods, observation, experimentation, debate, became the foundation of science and philosophy, shaping the world we know today. After the fall of Alexandria, the torch of knowledge was carried to new lands. In Byzantium, scholars preserved and copied ancient texts. In the Islamic Golden Age, cities like Baghdad, Cordoba, and Cairo built great libraries and centers of learning, translating Greek, Persian, and Indian works into Arabic and adding discoveries of their own. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad, for example, became a beacon of scholarship where scientists, mathematicians, and philosophers from many cultures worked side by side. Here, the works of Aristotle, Galen, and Ptolemy were not only preserved, but expanded upon. Al-Khwarizmi developed algebra, Ibn al-Haytham revolutionized optics, and Avicenna wrote his influential medical encyclopedia. In the libraries of medieval Europe, monks painstakingly copied ancient manuscripts by candlelight, ensuring that the wisdom of the ancients would not be lost forever. The printing press, invented in the 15th century, brought books to millions, making the dream of universal knowledge more real than ever before. Today, every library, every university, and every curious mind is a living echo of Alexandria's promise. The legend of the Library of Alexandria has inspired countless individuals across the ages. Galileo, Copernicus, and Newton all built on the foundations laid by the scholars of Alexandria. Their discoveries about the stars, the laws of motion, the nature of light were possible because the spirit of inquiry survived. Writers and artists, too, have been drawn to the story of the library. Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentine author, imagined a universe as a vast library filled with endless books and infinite possibilities. Carl Sagan, the astronomer and science communicator, often spoke of the library as a symbol of humanity's highest aspirations. Even in popular culture, the library appears as a place of wonder and mystery, a setting for adventure, discovery, and sometimes loss. In 2002, a new library rose on the shores of Alexandria, the Biblioteca Alexandrina. Its gleaming glass and granite walls curve like the rising sun, a tribute to the ancient wonder that once stood nearby. Inside, millions of books line the shelves. Scholars, students, and visitors from around the world gathered to read, learn, and share ideas. The new library is not just a building, but a symbol, a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is a journey without end. The Biblioteca Alexandrina hosts exhibitions, lectures, and cultural events, connecting the past to the present and inspiring future generations to dream. It is also a center for digital archiving, scientific research, and international collaboration. In its halls, you can find manuscripts in dozens of languages, rare maps, and even a planetarium, echoes of the ancient Museion reborn for a new age. Why does the story of the Library of Alexandria still move us after so many centuries? Perhaps it is because it reminds us of what we can achieve when we value knowledge and of what we risk losing when we do not. The library's fall is a warning, a reminder that ignorance, intolerance, and neglect can destroy even the greatest achievements. But it is also a call to action, to protect, share, and celebrate the wisdom we inherit. In a world where information is more abundant and more fragile than ever before, the lessons of Alexandria are more important than ever before.
The library has become a powerful symbol in art and literature. Painters have imagined its marble halls and golden light. Poets have mourned its loss and dreamed of its return. In novels and films, the library is often depicted as a place of secrets and adventure, a treasure to be found, or a paradise lost. From science fiction to historical drama, the idea of a universal library continues to inspire. Even in the digital age, the dream of Alexandria lives on. The internet, with its vast and growing store of information, is sometimes called the Library of the World. Yet, as we have learned, access to knowledge is not enough. It must be preserved, protected, and used wisely. As you listen to this story, perhaps you feel a sense of wonder or a longing for a world where knowledge is treasured above all else. Perhaps you imagine yourself walking the marble halls, reading by the light of an oil lamp, or debating the mysteries of the stars with friends. The Library of Alexandria belongs to all of us, not as a place, but as a dream. Every time you open a book, ask a question, or share an idea, you are keeping that dream alive. As our journey comes to a close, I invite you to carry the spirit of Alexandria with you. Let curiosity be your compass, and let kindness and wonder guide your steps. If you enjoyed this gentle voyage through history, consider subscribing to our channel for more stories of lost wonders, ancient mysteries, and the people who shaped our world. Your support helps us continue to share these tales and to build a community of dreamers and seekers. Thank you for joining me tonight. May your dreams be filled with light, and may you awaken with new questions and new hope. Good night.